what it is, like, it's fine.
Loaded.
That one hole where you got a snap off the street. But I have a huge fence up, so you hit the street, but you just see where it is. Two people that if I see you. Said you needed that. I said it.
He sent you.
I gave you.
I literally meant,
No, I read your you guys have excellent. Great culture change. We haven't done Culture's on the charts. Oh. No. Have opening night. That's the weirdest way. I will say, in terms of your, a lot of help in terms of big one. Well, I'll listen to that. Tiger rating said the SEC and then you do it. Yes. We're going to Ohio State football pretty nasty. I guess
brother, I said to you because I'm sure
somebody was describing Big 12 is not deep. It was a very wide. There's a lot of shit that's called it. Yeah. Basketball. That's going to be sick. Your fault. Trotter said SEC better than Big 12. Big 12 like podcasting. Oh, I think Big 12 probably has.
That was not
Kansas is just kind of like, yeah, we're here. I'm like, how good are they? 3 out of the top 5. Yeah.
Because they don't skip it.
Yes. Subscribe and find out. You get the show directly to your phone.
I was 247 sub, but somebody subscribed to. For more on this, please subscribe. Tell me that way.
Morning, everybody. Coach Sheridan will go ahead and begin shooting questions. Raise your hand and leave them up for a minute. We'll go ahead and get calling. Colin, we'll start with you on the left.
Hey, Nick. Obviously, Jalen had, a lot of success against LSU last year, kind of his coming out party. I'm curious about how have you seen him kind of approach this week? How have you, I guess, the 2 weeks kind of build up to such an important game, kind of on his end?
I think, his approach has been just daily improvement, being where your feet are. I think that's the message for everybody in the building, is to just be where your feet are and focus on being the best you can be each and every day in practice and preparation. And then that's how you best prepare yourself to go play well on Saturday. So I don't think his approach has changed, in that regard. And I think it's been steady throughout the season, just his consistency and his routine and his preparation. I think that gives you the best chance to play well, in the game and have the most confidence headed into the game when, you lean back on your routines, your preparation, your training. And so I haven't seen that change based on the opponent, throughout this season, not just this week, but in previous weeks as well.
All the way in the back on the right.
Hey, Coach, just with one of the biggest games of the year coming up this weekend, what's the advantages of having this bye where it's situated right now going into this week?
Well, I think it gives you an opportunity to maybe heal up a little bit. I think, the advantages are the same for both teams, obviously. So anytime you have a little bit of a time, to reflect, you can get healthy. You can identify things that you need to work on. You maybe get a hair bit more time just of preparation for the opponent. But they're on the same schedule that we're on. And so, ultimately it'll be whoever used the time the best, prepared the best. And we're still right in the middle of that. These next few days certainly are important. The practices, the preparation, the finalizing of the plan from the staff. And so that'll really be the focus here the next few days. And so obviously, use the time to try to, help individuals get better, help your unit get better, help your team get better. And we're still, have preparation to be had here the next few days.
Tony, second row on the left.
They rank top 10 in sacks. Just what have you seen from their pass rush, and how do you kind of combat that, without giving away too much of your game plan?
Yeah, I mean, certainly they're very disruptive. I think that jumps off the film. The production of the front seven players, both the edges, linebackers, interior players, they have had a lot of success that way. And I think the way that you try to, counter that is similar no matter who you're going against, is to try to stay out of those situations that are pretty obvious passing situations where they really can pin their ears back and rush. And so being efficient and effective on first and second down will be important. Staying out of third and long situations will be important. I think that's the case anytime you're playing a very disruptive front. Is to stay in situations that, make you unpredictable as far as run and pass and what you're trying to accomplish. And so, making sure that we're balanced and staying out of some of those situations where, it's friendly for good pass rushers. I think that'll be important for us.
Got a question for Nick on the right.
Yeah, last open week, you guys then went into the Georgia game and had a really strong start. What do you want to replicate in terms of how guys are preparing and in terms of how they approach just starting the game?
Well, we always want to start fast. I think that's really important, particularly when you're on the road. I think that is helpful. There's no doubt about it. I don't think anything that occurred in the past relative to previous bye weeks or previous games will have any impact on this one. But I would say, the importance of starting fast in a game is certainly important. Like I said, particularly when you're on the road and you're dealing with the crowd and those types of things, to be able to get off to a good start, I think is always beneficial, but certainly when you're on the road.
Katie, front left.
You kind of just answered what I was going to ask a little bit about playing on the road. Y'all played well on the road first game against Wisconsin, but not as well the last two games. Just kind of maybe what worked well in that Wisconsin game and maybe what have been some of the struggles on the road that y'all are kind of hoping to move past this week?
Well, I think, pretty simply, we just played better. We executed better. We did a better job as coaches. And so certainly that's a point of emphasis, to execute and play cleaner. I think that you talk about some of the personnel that they have, some of the schemes that they have. When you can execute and do your job a little bit more consistently, sometimes you keep them out of those situations where the advantage goes to the defense. And so when you look at those opportunities we've had on the road, we need to play better. And I think that comes down to simple execution. I think making sure as a staff we're putting them in a position to play fast and play confident because you are dealing with, other factors in the game, crowd noise, et cetera. So making sure that we keep it simple enough so our guys can execute and do their job, I think that'll be important.
Back to the right side, Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach, you just mentioned crowd noise. What did you maybe learn from that Tennessee game that can help you guys going into the road game at Baton Rouge?
Yeah, that we need to be better. I think that's what, was evident. We obviously didn't start the game off the right way relative to the noise and the communication. We've continued to work on that, as a group, as a staff, to make sure that, what we're asking them to do in those moments, that they can execute it at a high level. And so I thought there were moments in the game the last time we were in an environment like this where we were fine, we settled in and were able to communicate, but certainly we didn't start the game off the way that we would like. And so, I think the message was to learn and grow from those experiences so that you can do better the next time you get in those environments and atmospheres.
Do you have any other questions for Coach Sheridan?
Okay, roll Tide.
All right. Joined by Coach Womack. We'll have Coach make his opening statement, and then we'll take questions. Whenever you're ready, Coach.
Okay, looking back on the bye week, you always want to do a review, of kind of where you are, the things that you need to improve, and the things that that you're doing well. I thought, coming out of the Missouri game, there were things that I think we are taking steps in the right direction. I think our players have a real emphasis to take the ball off of people right now. I think we've gotten 10 takeaways in the last 3 games, which is really encouraging. I'm seeing an emphasis in that from our coaches and players in practice, and those things are showing up on game day. I think, limiting explosive plays, certainly, we were able to do that, whatever that was, a week and a half ago. We gave up 4 explosives, and really 3 of those 4 were in the last series of the game when we had some young guys in that gave up some explosive runs, and so we certainly got to get those things cleaned up. That was not nearly to the standard. We were fortunate to get a 4th down stop there at the end with some older guys that have a lot of pride and wanted to get back in the game. So. And then we had 15 explosives as an offense. And then I thought, 3rd downs, that's been an area that we've been deficient in, and I think we're taking steps in the right direction there. Some things that we're doing fundamentally, some things that we're doing schematically, just making tweaks so that we can give our players the best chance to be able to get people off the field and get the ball back to our offense. So looking into the bye week, those were things that we were able to do and kind of build off of from a momentum standpoint. I like the demeanor of our players right now. I think they're in a really good position. I think they are very hungry to get back out on the field. Some of them have done a tremendous job in getting their bodies healthy and bodies back. I think our training staff is the best in the country, the best that I've ever been around. And credit to our players and training staff for having a sense of urgency in the bye week to get ourselves in as healthy a position as we can heading into the last 4 games of the regular season and then beyond. So looking ahead to LSU, this is a very explosive football team. A lot of athletes that are on the field. I think Coach Kelly is obviously. His resume speaks for itself, and the success that he's had at multiple places in the way that he manages his football team. Have a lot of respect for Joe Sloan, their offensive coordinator I've known for a number of years, and he's really done a great job kind of wherever he's been. And Frank Wilson was my position coach at one time in college, and a number of guys on their offensive staff that I think really do a really good job. And then from an offensive standpoint, I think, you can talk about the quarterback all day long. I think Nussmeier, he's a coach's kid. You can tell he's been very well trained, knows where to go with the ball, has great answers, is probably, to me up there, with the Carson Becks of the world in terms of his ability to see the field and make great decisions. He's as good as we've seen this year. Aggressive with the ball. I know sometimes that has gotten them in trouble, but it's also, created a lot of explosive plays that they've been able to make because he's aggressive, and certainly he's got players on the perimeter and in their tight end room that will go up and get the football. Even if guys are covered, he's going to throw the ball, and so we're going to have to make plays and contested catches. And do a great job against an explosive team with a great quarterback, an awesome system, and one of the best environments, in college football. So be a great challenge for us, one that I think our players are certainly looking forward to on Saturday.
Coach, start right here in front. Nick?
Yeah, Kane, do you think that the recent, momentum that this defense has is just a result of guys understanding your system better and just them developing, or what would you attribute it to?
I think, I think the answer is probably yes in a number of facets. I think our guys, certainly there's going to be a learning curve, right, and some of the things that, that guys are understanding our system on a more dynamic level and recognizing, when to take chances and when not to take chances. I think that's a big piece of it. And then you've got some guys that have experience, and maybe they have experience in different systems, but then you have some guys that have little experience and they're starting to grow and learn. And so I like where we're headed. I think we are in a position to be able to continue to improve defensively and get better as the season goes on. I told our players this the other day. I mean, you look at college football right now. I mean, right now it's hard for everybody. Winning is hard in the SEC. It always has been, but I would argue now more than ever, finding ways to get better as a football team ultimately is going to make the difference in the last part of the season here in terms of who is considered a successful football team. And so I think we're trending in the right direction there, but, long way to go in some areas.
Far left, Chase.
Kyron Lacey's been pretty explosive for LSU. He had a big game against A&M a couple weeks ago, even though they lost. What do you see in his talent, and how do you try to contain that guy?
Yeah, I remember Kyron, when he was in the Sun Belt. He was playing at Louisiana my first year as the head coach at South Alabama, and then I think he transferred maybe the year after in 2022. Long physical presence, does a great job with the ball in the air. I think he makes contested catches. I think he's grown so much as a route runner and really, someone that you can tell that Nussmeier really trusts to get the ball to, even in, situations where he's got body on body to go make a play for him. So very impressed with his skill set. He's got all the tools and can run and make contested catches and the makings of a great receiver.
So right up in the middle here, Mike. Microphone coming to you.
Seems like Jordan Renaud's played a bigger role lately. Just what does he bring to the table, and how do you decide when to put him on the field versus LT or Jamarian?
Yeah, I'm excited about Jordan Renaud. There's a number of young guys that I'm excited about, but that's certainly one to point towards. I think, Jordan is continuing to grow in our defense and understanding what to do. We talk about those things, right? Knowing when to take chances, when to take risks, all that goes on the back end, that goes up front, and then just doing your job at a more consistent level than maybe where he was at the beginning of the season. Credit him. You've got two players, and Jamarian Latham and LT Overton that are playing good football right now. And so for him to elevate his game to be in the conversation and find ways, for us to have to find ways to get him on the field, I think speaks to who he is and the work that he's put in. But also I think dude's got a really bright future.
All the way back, Ryan.
Coach, the last time you guys walked off the field, it was a shutout. How does that carry over, and what's your message to the guys? Just to take pieces, or do you flush it?
Well, I think, I think one of the cool things about that shutout was the way in which it was done. I thought our older players, we were literally having to hold them back in that last drive, right, to not, want to go out on the field and preserve a shutout. I think that's awesome when a group of defensive players have pride in wanting to get stops. And certainly they've gone through adverse situations. We have as a team, we have as a defense, but knowing that at the end of the day, it's not okay to give up touchdowns. It's not okay, at any point, right, to give up scores and yards and all those things. And so I thought that was a great momentum builder for our players to know, hey, one, we were able to get a shutout, we were able to get the stop, but also I thought it was a real opportunity for some older players and coaches to be able to demand the standard out of some younger players that we are going to have to count on, as the season goes. We've already counted on some of those players due to injuries. So I think certainly anytime you can get a shutout, especially in the SEC, I think you can build off of that momentum.
Let's go to Tony here in the second row on the left.
What have you seen from their tackle tandem? And then also, I think A&M was probably the first team to really exploit them. What can you kind of learn off of the A&M game to maybe replicate that?
Well, I think, I think A&M, they do a great job on defense. Schematically, they're really good. Their personnel up front is as good as I've seen. Those guys do a really good job in one-on-one matchups, and I thought they did a great job of finding and creating one-on-one matchups based off of how they situated their personnel and were able to win, a number of those one-on-ones. And so that'll be the challenge for us. I thought they did some really good things that, that you can look at and say, okay, how does that fit what we do? And then kind of build off of it from there. But you kind of take little pieces from everybody. I thought, you look, Ole Miss played them really well for the vast majority of the game and then just couldn't seem to get off the field at the end. I think, having both personnel groupings based off of the groupings that they have on the field. They've got a lot of different things that they do out of their personnels with 12 and different tight end groupings that come on the field, and then also things from a scheme standpoint to be able to, have answers against a very prolific offense, I think is going to be critical at the end.
Let's go to Colin.
Hey, Kane. We saw a little bit of what Quay Rousseau could do with a little bit of.
Who's that?
Quay Rousseau.
Quay.
When he was a little bit, healthier and kind of saw the flashes, saw those moments. How has he been able to kind of cement himself as a Wolf linebacker? What does he do that kind of you want at that position?
Well, it's really the Wolf is a really dynamic position. I mean, you ask a lot out of really kind of both the edge player to the field and to the boundary, the Husky, the nickel position for us in terms of what they do from a coverage perspective, but fitting in the box and blitzing off the edge and playing different man and zone oriented coverages. And then to the boundary, right, that Wolf position, I mean, you're asking that guy to play a 5 technique and a 9 technique to be able to slant down inside into the interior B gaps or A gaps, to fold back inside in the run fit at times, to drop out in coverage, to cover backs and tight ends out of the backfield. So it's a very dynamic skill set. Quay is strong at the point of attack. He's got enough athleticism to be able to make space tackles. And so really, he has all the physical traits for a good Wolf, but more so, right, the guy has really taken ownership in terms of what to do schematically and how he fits it within the framework of the defense. And I think he's really probably taken a lot of steps in terms of growth to, answer, Nick's question earlier there, like players that are growing within, the framework of what we're doing defensively. You could certainly point to Quay Rousseau on taking steps in the right direction.
Jump back to the right, go to Matt.
I was curious about your thoughts, and how do you think defensive coaches across the league kind of feel about the order from the league to kind of knock off with the fake injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, ultimately, when you are in a situation where you are hurt in a game and you have to go down, you can't come off the field when these offenses are going too fast. They're watching your sideline. They're aware of, if all of a sudden you try to make a personnel change when you don't have, the iron cross by the officials. And so, I think the rule is still the rule, right? But, you have some of these instances, right, that they're maybe trying to crack down on, and ultimately it doesn't really change what we're telling our guys. Our guys need to understand that, if they're hurt in a game, never come off the field. You always have to go down in that situation so that we can make the proper substitution for that player.
Let's go to the left here, third row.
You mentioned that Nussmeier is an aggressive player, but at times he has disadvantages. What have you seen on film that you believe this defense could limit him at times?
Well, I think, I think he is an aggressive player, right? And sometimes you live by the sword and die by the sword a little bit. And, we're a team that is certainly going to be focused on taking the ball off of people. And we've got to be able to show enough looks and pictures and change some things up and, put eyes on the quarterback and play man coverage and do all the different things to be able to create some confusion that we've been able to create with some really good quarterbacks. We were able to do that, even looking back to Carson Beck, who is a great quarterback and has had a hard time, hasn't turned the ball over very much. But I think if you can find creative ways to give them different looks and pictures, right, you're going to give yourself an opportunity to take the ball away. But at the same time now, I mean, this dude, has made a lot of plays being the guy he is. He's an aggressive player, I mean, you think about, Brett Favre threw a lot of picks in his career, but he also made a hell of a lot of plays, right? And this guy has really done some similar things in that regard. And so some of that you live with a little bit as an offense, but from a defensive perspective, we need to make sure that, taking the ball off of people is really the identity of who we are as a defense. And so that needs to show up on Saturday night.
All right, we got 2 questions left. Let's start with Eugene.
Coach, you said that you like the demeanor that you're seeing from some of your players. Can you go into a little more detail about what you're seeing and from who?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think for me, I think our players have learned from the experiences that they've had this season, and there is a sense of urgency to get better every single day and not waste reps in practice. And so for our guys to have that understanding of, okay, I did this early in the season in practice, and this showed up on game day, be it from a positive standpoint or from an area where we have to get better. And so I think our players are drawing upon those positive and negative experiences to have better practice habits. And then I think some of those practice habits are showing up on game day, and our coaches are doing a really good job of pointing those things out, you know, that ultimately you're going to get rewarded by what you put out on the field. And so, you know, somebody, I saw a quote the other day, it was something about the success that you want is in the work that you are avoiding. You know what I mean? And so the work that you're willing to put in, right, is going to reap the result of success that ultimately you want. And so are our players willing to do that day in and day out when it gets hard at the end of the season? I think right now our guys got a really good demeanor about that.
Finish up with Alex here on the right.
Talked a lot about the explosive plays and the receivers they have, but how tough is it as a coordinator when they've got Mason Taylor at the tight end position who they can really go to in crunch time?
Yeah.
What does he do for them?
I think he is as good a tight end as we've seen this year. I mean, I think you can tell their quarterback trusts him. I mean, another guy that when the game is on the line, he continues to show up in those big moments. He will make contested catches. Just even being body on body, the guy can make those contested, you know, type throw and catch, which is ultimately what is hard about, you know, covering a tight end, right? You've got some 6'6" guy that you're covering with a linebacker or a defensive back that ultimately, you know, a good quarterback's going to throw away from leverage and he's going to be able to come down with the ball. And so I think the dude, you know, takes pride, obviously, in not coming off the field. You can tell that's kind of a thing, right? They constantly are keeping him on the field and having different groupings and packages around him. But, you know, tight ends, man, when you have a good tight end that can do things in the run game well enough and then ultimately be dynamic in the passing game, that's why those guys are so valuable, you know, in the professional league right now, because they're rare, but they're really hard to defend, you know, for a number of reasons. So we'll have our work cut out for us.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys. Roll Tide.
We'll go ahead and have Coach make his opening statement, and we'll take questions. Leave your hands up for a second.
All right, good morning. Had a great bye week. Our guys get a chance to work on the things that we felt we needed to work on as a team, get a little healthier and in a good spot. The guys got back to work yesterday with a good practice, high energy, very intentional on what the job is that we're up against going into LSU here, and you know, getting a head start on that, whether it be last week or yesterday. So we'll be back at it tomorrow morning, and you know, got an exciting week, you know, preparing for a good football team. So one update, you know, just want to give, because I know I haven't had a chance to, just with the timing of everything, with when we've met Cole Adams with his injury, just an update there. He'll be out for the year. So we had to deal with that, you know, and last week, and unfortunately, you know, just because Cole's you know, guy that pours everything into it, had an injury earlier in the season. Honestly, at the time, probably thought that was going to be something more significant as far as the time frame with the first one. Just seeing the effort he put into that first injury, you really found out a lot about who he was as a person, as a player, just a toughness he had. And unfortunately, he had another injury here now, and you know, lower body injury, and so, you know, we'll be done with the season here this year. Questions?
All right, let's start with Charlie on the far right.
Just with Cole, and you also have Jalen out, just what do you do from a receiver standpoint to kind of, I guess, replenish that depth?
Yeah, and you know, the season has the flows, right? The guys that are in, the guys that are out. A couple weeks ago, we had multiple guys out with K-Law and Kobe, and that's where Cole got more playing time as well as some others. And so, again, unfortunately, we aren't at full strength there, but just much like most of the teams across the country are. So you're shorthanded, but you mix and match, and you continue to find the versatility in guys and put them into spots and coach them up. And there's a lot of cross training that happens within positions, and receivers one of them. So guys that can play inside and outside both, we're going to utilize them to their fullest potential. But it's always all hands on deck, especially this time of the year.
Chase on the far left.
What were your thoughts about the edict from the SEC on Friday with the penalties for defenses faking injuries, and how much do you think faking injuries really impacts the integrity of the game?
Well, I guess the rules have been the rules, and so just having to find another level of enforcement, I think, and seriousness about it is what's happening here. And so from our end, I already talked to our players, our staff. It doesn't change what we do, because we go about it, and if you are hurt, and you need to stay down, especially if it's substitutions that need to be made. You need to be looked at. But you can put yourself in some tough positions if you really truly are hurt, and that's I really feel like with what our team does and how we operate, how it's going to continue to be. So I've been on the other end where there's situations at the end of the game or whatever it might be that get a little frustrating, and that can happen at any time. But the rules have been the rules, and so we'll just continue to go about business as we always have here in our program.
Yeah, now that you know that Cole's out for the year, do you want to have just one punt returner, or how do you want to handle that position moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, you will go with, who you feel best about, obviously. We need to continue to always build depth. Said this at the beginning of the year to our special teams, coordinator with Jay Nunez. He does a great job, but also just in developing returners. It isn't just your upperclassmen that you can do it, you have confidence in, but it's also developing younger guys. And you have seen just as much as anyone has that we have younger guys that we've been putting out there with Bach and Ryan. And we need to continue to develop more and more, not just for today, not just for the next couple games or the rest of the season, but also for the future, years to come. And so just over and over, you just can't catch enough kicks, punts, and then all the situations that come along with it, when to field it, when to fair catch it, the communication that happens, just being comfortable back there. It's reps and reps and reps of that. And so we're going to always continue to develop more and more guys. And, kind of who you've been seeing is who we'll start out with Bach and Ryan. But, whether we pick just one or the other, I think there's also pieces with the flow of the game, and just things like that might dictate, or even a situational call that we want to where we have a certain guy out there.
Jump back over to the left to Katie.
Nick just talked about the importance of starting fast on the road. Vanderbilt, it was a pick six first offensive possession. Tennessee 3 and out. So just in general on offense on the road, how important is it to start fast? Then specifically kind of with this game this weekend.
Yeah, certainly, and that's something we're always preaching. And unfortunately, as you mentioned in those two games, we haven't done that. And there's been a lot of in the Vanderbilt game, I think we quickly got going, had success. You just can't dig yourself a hole, especially given the opponent, a momentum in an environment like we're going to see at LSU. So it's critical. We preach it every day. We try to even set up our practice to where we do start fast, whether it's offense or defense. And, we didn't get that done the last two road games, as you mentioned. So always an emphasis on that, but really it comes back to not really – the guys are trying. It's just a matter of, doing things that you do well, going out there and executing.
Stay on that same row. Let's go to Colin.
Hey, Kellen, I'm curious what you've seen out of Elijah Pritchett at right tackle recently. it seems like from our perspective that he's struggled a little bit from that position. How have you seen him kind of handle the last off week, and how comfortable do you feel about the right tackle position right now?
Yeah, I think Elijah's got a ton of potential, and a lot of things that he's grown in. There's always the areas, and at this time of the year, there's enough film on someone to where teams attack you certain ways, and whether we're talking about the tackle position, or it could be anywhere, defensive back, defensive line. You put on film as a team, as an individual, the things that opponents are going to look at, and so he's continuing to work hard every single day. I mean, he comes out to practice, he's competitive. I feel like his growth has been kind of proven over the year. I think there's a consistency to him that is higher than what it was at the beginning or even the middle of the season. And, that's what you're looking for. That's all you can ask in your players, is that they continue to grow, they can continue to, improve. And he's doing that. And, we'll continue to help him as coaches. That's our job.
All the way back right, Ryan.
Hey, Coach. Many people believe this one on Saturday must win for Alabama. What's your approach? This is why you come to Alabama for games like this, and what's been the attitude with you going into a game where there's really not a lot of wiggle room left this season? Yeah,
and that's, you saw our response, I think, with the Missouri game, because really, that was the case there. And I say that, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, well, why wasn't that the case when we went to Tennessee? Well, it was. It's just more experiences that you have together, the backs of the wall, there's different things that different teams respond well to, and at least for the first test, and Missouri was at home, we got off to a fast start defensively, did a nice job there, and just continued to apply pressure, I think, offensively. And once we got the field position in our favor, we kind of cracked through. But for us, it's just always going back to really the process and, the work that needs to be put in, the areas we needed to continue to improve on. And the guys, I use the word intentional a lot, whether it's here, whether it's with our team. We have to be intentional, and we got to bring that energy in order to really continue to improve, and they're doing that. And they want to make something big of this season, and it's supported through the action that you see on the practice field. You see it in just the way they're going about their business off the field. Just the details that really continue to hone in on. And it's just a matter of time, right? As the season goes on, you become more comfortable with what we're doing, whether it's our scheme or just the routine or each other. And a lot of our youth is rising up and continuing to gain more and more confidence, mixed in with the veterans that continue to bring great leadership. So I like where we're at. Unfortunately, like you said, we have less wiggle room. And our backs are to the wall, and so we're going to fight each and every day, bite, scratch, and claw, like you've never seen, and that continues on this week.
Lee Grace in the back left.
Coach, on the other side of a bye week, what indicators are you looking for in your team that lets you know it was productive and that their mindset is in the right place for a game like LSU?
You're talking about like this week? Yeah, I think last week and this week is a great indication. I guess this week I'm talking about yesterday's practice. Ton of energy. There was a purpose, just very deliberate in how we went out there. There's emotion and there's energy, but it's really focused on the right things. And the leaders, what I challenge our team to do is not just have the leaders that have been the leaders step up, but have, at this point, a team full of leaders. We can't have, these freshmen aren't freshmen. The new guys that come into this program aren't just new guys anymore. This is our team, and that's been the message, but really for them to all raise their game as leaders. That means accountability for themselves, ourselves, each individually, and then also bring someone else with you. And that's been the challenge the last couple of weeks, and I continue to kind of hone in on that.
All right, we're going to finish up with Tony here on the left.
What have you seen from Robbie Oots, and how big is his ability to kind of handle some of that dirty work that maybe goes unnoticed on offense?
Yeah, and he does some things on special teams too with Robbie. He's just a really versatile guy, becoming more versatile when it comes to special teams and offense. I think he's one of those guys that when you talk about the reps that you've had now in our offense and how we teach things, and just getting used to the locations that we're going to put him as I guess a tight end, but even in a fullback role, the spots that we put him all over on the field, the reps have helped him really develop and grow. And now you see him not just going out there and trying to execute what's on paper and what the play's supposed to be, but he's actually going out there and making plays. I think the first play or early in the game, we went right to him, and just like it was second nature for him, to run the route, to catch the ball, to, get vertical and, run through people like he's used to doing. And he's a guy that our team looks to because he's very just unselfish. Will do whatever it takes for our football team to be successful, and that happens through his effort, happens through his attitude. You can just see it, and he's a pleasure to have on our football team, pleasure to coach.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you. Roll Tide.